Okay. Nice. That's up there. Make sure that everything is where I need it to be. Great. Good. Launch the game, baby. Ugh. All right. Oh boy. Hello? Wii remote is okay. Well, great. Awesome. For a second, my Wiimote was not responding. What's up? What's up? It's been a long weekend. Uh, I had a surprising number of things to do. Learn that banks charge you for no reason, apparently, again? Yeah, not for no reason. It claims that you have no money. That is the reason. That's what an overdraft fee is. If you run out of money and you take money out of the bank, they charge you for it. It's literally more expensive to be poor in the United States than it is to be rich. Yeah, that's what an overdraft fee is. Um, and banks will like do all sorts of shit to like create more excuses to hit you with overdraft fees. To such an extent that they'll literally lie about when you spent money on shit. Or they'll like break things up into separate charges to charge you more. What do when they're lying? I mean, there's not much you can do. You just, if you're poor, you just kind of get fucked. You know? Like, that's kind of it. That's what overdraft fees are designed for. That's what they do. Even if you have enough money for it anyway. Yeah. I don't know, there might be something you can do, but like... Yeah, no. There's, nothing you can do. In fact, oh wow, 4 days ago, New York Times. Senate overturns rule limiting bank overdraft fees to $5. As of 4 days ago, those problems getting a whole lot worse. They can just charge you whatever. So there used to be more constraints on the banks from doing this, and then, yeah. Yeah, I knew about overdraft fees already. But yeah, it's fucked up. This is why 99% of my money is cash. Yes, that's a good reason to have, like, to be, like, just staying the fuck away from the debt economy in any form that's possible, because, it is, when I say debt trap, I do mean debt trap. It's, like, it is very hard to escape once you're, like, ensnared in it. There's, like, for a lot of people, there's not a whole lot you can do. Barely escape that. Yeah, it's like the Venus flytrap. My controller's not responding super well right now. Landed up there for a second. Really painfully that death would, from a Venus flytrap would be. Yeah, that would really suck. It's like, there are a lot of, predators that kill their prey in extremely torturous, ways, you know? Oh wow, blue shell? Okay. Well, I will take first, sure. If they get a red shell here, I might be fucked. We'll see. No, I'm probably good. If a shock happens, I'm fucked. How do I know? Dude, I have the what was I saying the other time? The gift of clairvoyance? Yeah, that shit hits hard. Proof that all these streams are pre-recorded, actually. Doesn't even do anything for like an hour? Really? I didn't know that about Venus flytraps. That is, spooky. I need an item here. I was just about to say I'm not going to get one, but I did get one. That's cool. Oh, wow. Kind of got messed up. Wow, everybody got messed up by that POW. Put you on my TV? Oh, shit, I want to be on the big screen. Several hours before it starts poisoning stuff? Jesus. That is torture. You just fucking kept in that, like, grip for several hours before anything really starts happening, but you know you're just fucking dead. Damn. Anyways, a lot of stuff happened while I was out. Some of it actually being good and also cool and funny and hilarious and etc. But first I want to go through the bad stuff. Because that's, you know, first order of the day. Get that out of the way. Then we talk about the good shit. People just fight arresting random civilians for saying stuff. Yeah, I saw that on that Fox News has gone, like, so far off the deep end. It's kind of wild that the discourse so quickly shifted because of the lack of a counter-narrative, the lack of pushback from liberal media and from the Democratic Party, that it like, very straightforwardly went from, like, no, we just want to fix the immigration system and strengthen the border, and we're only worried about targeting, we're only worried about deporting illegal immigrants, people who are here illegally and who have committed crimes, especially. It's wild how fast they, like, took that, and then it instantly became, you know what, actually, immigrants don't deserve rights. They said that on Fox News recently. They were talking about the people who were deported for being suspected, by the way, not like proven or charged or whatever, suspected of being Tren de Aragua members, which functionally means that somebody just said, I don't know, you look like a gang member, probably, I don't know, you're brown, so get on the plane and you're going to the concentration camp. You know, and, like, straight up, in defense of that, Fox News was saying, like, yeah, you know what, we should probably revisit the part of the Constitution that says that non-citizens have rights. Like, holy shit, dude. You know? And it's kind of, it's interesting to see, because it's like, the degree to which the far right has consolidated their part of the discourse to be like, you know what, actually minorities just don't deserve rights, and we've got, you know, something has to be done about all these immigrants, about all these Jews, I mean brown people, I mean Jews, I mean queer people, you know, whatever minority group they're talking about. But unlike in Nazi Germany, I feel like the public support for that just kind of is missing, which is part of why they have to do everything they're doing so fast at such a breakneck pace, because they know that a lot of this stuff is like politically really, like, it really looks bad for them, because it is bad when they are, like, just disappearing people, shipping them off to a country they've never been to without trial, detaining them in absolutely horrid conditions, and you know, sexually abusing them, working them to death, and so on. At least those are our best guesses. Like, we won't know until like we're able to open up those prisons to, like, get people out of there, if that ever happens, or until we see, like, photos of the horrors occurring there, because that's kind of what being disappeared means. We haven't seen or heard from any of these people in a while. The only time I'm glad generic Republicans are like, but my freedom. Yeah, that's one of the things that actually works against the Republicans here, is that their own constituency, number one, is getting mad at them for having all their fucking welfare benefits taken away, which is good that they're getting mad about it. But then also, they've labored under the misconception, because the misconception has been manufactured, that the fascism will not be done to them. It will only be done to everybody else. And while there's something to be said there that a lot of these people aren't principally opposed to fascism, they just don't like it when they're on the receiving end. It's like, you know, it works in our favor. It works to slow down the fascists that they have to, if they want to carry out their project, they have to be more choosy and rational about like basically being really, really careful that they don't deport anybody that's connected to somebody who might vote Republican for anything. Like, they have to be really careful to not generate excessive discontent among the base. But the thing is, because they're fascists, they're also irrational. They're incapable of thinking rationally about that. So they just fucking, you know, spray and pray. And that makes a lot of people really mad. Like, I'm having my TV's when my dad's not here. Damn. I have a mushroom. I don't even know where to use this. Is there... Well, I guess I can use it here. A lot of people, when I, reality, when people say in reality, villains are smart and scary, is completely wrong. They're extremely stupid and scary. Yeah, that's the thing about fascism, sometimes about people's conceptions of fascism and authoritarianism, that a lot of people get wrong. People think that they're this ruthlessly efficient machine of oppression. No, they fucking suck at everything, but they are still very oppressive. They hate you, they hate life, they hate society, they hate all things that are good. But they do not have any of the sort of, like, they don't have this, like, ruthlessly rational, threatening affect about them. They're just, like, massive losers who hate themselves and everybody else. You know? It's the failure of it's a failure of analysis, I think. You know, in the sort of casual person's lexicon there. And of course, it's also how the fascists want to be portrayed. That like, they want to be portrayed as smart and evil and, like, really cool and threatening and whatever, you know? They love that shit. But they love it because it's their imagination of themselves. They're not actually like that. Fascists are fucking morons. You know? But the liberals are even bigger morons. So that's how fascists take power. They have to... That's what I mean when I say that fascists have to have help from other... from, like, liberals and stuff in order to take power. They're not smart enough. If they have any sort of competent political opposition, they're not smart enough to take power on their own. You know? They had to be enabled by feckless and incompetent liberals, and they have to... That's why they have to be constantly in a state of, like, national crisis. That's why they need a war economy, because they need the people to be thinking in some analogous way as irrationally as they are. If you have a public that doesn't necessarily perceive a broader existential threat that the fascists can easily weaponize, right? If you're not in a wartime economy where everyone's pissing and shitting themselves for an external threat to the nation or whatever, fascists can't really do anything. So they have to manufacture that threat so that they can get away with being stupid and evil, as opposing to having to be smart and evil. Is it weird? It's weird how some people treat strength as a personality trait. Strength can mean a lot of things, but in the sense that some people would say, oh, they're strong. Yeah, that's not a personality trait. That's a physical attribute of your, like, body. You know? Strength of character is a different thing. You know, if somebody, it says like, oh, they have strength of character or something like that, but that doesn't necessarily translate directly to strength as somebody would casually refer to it, if that makes sense. But on the note of how stupid fascists are and the irrationality of fascism being incapable of serving its own objectives because it's too dumb, we have an example of the administration doing what, you know, what a fascist government is wont to do, of course, gutting education, but doing it in such a way that is completely incapable of selling it to like a broader audience, and that will only like turn more people against them, which makes me happy. From the Associated Press, Trump executive order on Smithsonian targets funding for programs with, quote, improper ideology. This is like the villain from Phineas and Ferb. Nah, dude, Doofenshmirtz is like way funnier and more charming and charismatic and harmless than the Republicans. Not to mention, I think he's also probably smarter. You know? Basically what I'm saying is, yes, but also comparing Doofenshmirtz to the Republicans is an insult to Doofenshmirtz. Because that guy is funny, and also, like, realistically, you know, if we're doing a whole, like, psychoanalyzing a character from kids' media, my man just wants to hang out with Perry the Platypus, you know? A platypus? Perry the Platypus! You know? To be fair, everyone's smarter than him. Yeah, and that's part of what I want to highlight here, is that they're total fucking losers and like, incompetent midwits who have sort of stumbled their way into power. I think there's somebody, like, there was a turn of phrase to describe the Russian Revolution that the Bolsheviks found power laying in the street and picked it up, right? That they just sort of happened upon it, right? Because there were a lot of different factions in the Russian Revolution. That's kind of what the GOP did, is that they were so incompetent. The liberals basically just had to drop power on the street for the Republicans to casually stroll by and pick it up, you know? And now look what they're doing with it. They're incapable of like, I mean, obviously they're using it for evil. They're targeting the fucking Smithsonian Institute, right? That's the... I guess that's the proper name of the Smithsonian, and they can't even bother to put up the affect of, like, oh, they're not using funds well, they're like, there's some inefficiency or whatever. No, they're just going with, yeah, you have improper ideology. We disagree with you, and like, we are cutting funding from you because of your beliefs. And your beliefs are that, like, racism exists or something, and that, you know, institutions should be reformed, I think. Like, that's the improper ideology that they cut funding to the Smithsonian over. Because they want, like, legitimately, they just want to do the whole patriotic education thing, where you are lied to in the American education system even more than you already are. That's a high bar to clear, but they want to lie people even more. Or lie to people to create this narrative that America is the greatest country that ever existed on Earth, that it has never done anything wrong, and like, basically the founding fathers are gods, but also ignore all the things that the founding fathers believed that we are blatantly in contradiction to, because we want to make everything worse. Yeah, they're trying. They're imitating this very famous book. Don't know if you've heard of it. They're following the playbook of 1984. I hear it's a good book. You know, literally, you have committed wrongthink, so we're going to, like, dismantle your entire institution and take away all of your money, And this is important too, because the Smithsonian is the national, like, public museums, like, network and whatever. Like, that's public museums all across the U.S. and particularly in D.C. as well. D.C. being host to some pretty cool museums, if I don't say so myself. I've been there a couple times and seen those museums. And Republicans are like, nah, get rid of it. It's just me, or do Republicans' faces not look happy ever? Yeah, I've kind of noticed that, except for when they commit acts of, like, heinous evil. Then you see them crack, like, a extremely, like, fucking cartoon villain smile, like, twirling mustache tier shit. But yeah, Republicans, fascists, I promise you, are not happy people. They are profoundly insecure and just consumed by hate for everyone and everything around them. Which is not a fun state of mind to be in. You know? And they've simply decided to sort of project that hate outwards onto everybody else. Smiles look so evil, it's not even funny. Yeah, if you ever see Mike Johnson, he's the Speaker of the House. If you ever see him on TV, pay attention to when he smiles. It's the most heinous, like, shit-eating grin that I've ever seen. It's like, you know, like when the House passed the bill that's now law, the CR, the resolution, the budget resolution, Mike Johnson went on to the news and just fucking lied about it. He just said, like, oh no, we're not touching Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. He said that with a big fucking grin on his face, knowing full well, like, he knows he's lying. He knows that everybody else knows that he's lying. He's lying to the whole country and being like, basically the subtext of what he was saying with that shit-eating smile is, yeah, fuck you, we're cutting Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Grandma's not going to have healthcare anymore. She's not going to get her retirement checks. What the fuck are you going to do about it? You know? They just hate you. They just hate you. Should make a great Assassin's Creed game in the future. This would make a lot of great media in the future. The problem is that we're living through it right now, and that sucks. You know? Let's read through this AP article a little bit. So, improper ideology. President Trump announced plans to issue an executive order aimed at the Smithsonian Institution, targeting funding for programs promoting what he calls divisive narratives and improper ideology. Those are both direct quotes from him. Divisive narratives and improper ideology. As part of his broader push against liberal culture. I would slightly amend that to say, like, a relatively progressive societal culture, but ultimately the point is the same, that, like, they're trying to undo the progressive advances that society has made in the past several decades. Despite all of the consolidating control of the owning class, people have gotten more and more progressive and cosmopolitan in their understanding of the world and whatever, being like, basically, more people recognize, yeah, racism is bad probably, and we should, like, fix it, I guess. And the Trump administration's like, we need to target the institutions that are responsible for helping that narrative, that racism is bad, flourish. So let's now defund the Smithsonian because they have improper ideology. They are Antifa, and we are pro-fa. Fa being fascist. Let's see. President Trump on Thursday revealed his intention to force changes at the Smithsonian Institution with an executive order that targets funding for programs that advance, quote, divisive narratives and improper ideology. The latest step in a broadside against culture he deems to be too liberal. I'm noticing a distinct lack in every fucking major news outlet. You will notice this, a distinct lack of anybody ever using the word fascist. Which I think goes a long way to enhance the credibility of Trump. This is one of the things that I fucking despise the mainstream news for, is that they'll never call a spade under any circumstance, because it entails them having an opinion on anything ever being good or bad. Basically what I'm saying is that they had to say, like, oh, well, he thinks the Smithsonian is too liberal, so he's targeting them, and not following it up with, like, yeah, this is obviously some Nazi Germany tier fascist bullshit, because the people who work at AP are either themselves massive pussies or subject to the whims of people who are massive pussies. No, I find it's entertaining. Personally, pick the Kamala Harris timeline. I mean, I would have too. That's why I voted for Kamala Harris in the presidential election. But ultimately, I feel like that would have only bought 4 years. Like, not much would have changed there. How long do you think it'll be before they say we need to deport black people because of replacement theory? That's one line I'm not sure they'll be super willing to cross. But again, I've been wrong before. It's possible that the fascists start going really, really insane with it. I think that they actually need black people to be in America, because they love the thought of going back to Jim Crow era America. So if anything, it's probably just going to get harder for all Americans to travel anywhere. And we've already sort of seen that. With the disappearances from ICE, like travel restrictions being put on the United States from other countries, and I feel like that's the next logical step. Now, realistically, what I think is the Republicans want to go back to the pre-civil rights era United States, where black people are second-class citizens, and that is actually even their irrational motivations aren't well served in their eyes by deporting black people. They might deport some, like, black African immigrants, like if somebody immigrated to the United States from, like, Nigeria or Ghana or wherever, in somewhere in that region. I could see them very easily getting caught in these waves of deportations to El Salvador. It's entirely possible they have already, and we just haven't heard about it. But black Americans, I think that they have their aim set on basically reestablishing a Jim Crow or even antebellum tier set of race relations in the United States. Especially because I think I'm gonna see this as we get on with this AP article. But a lot of the quote unquote improper ideology that the Trump administration refers to has to do with race, and how the Smithsonian talks about race relations and the history of race in the United States. Oh boy, gonna have to ban that guy. But I can't really do it right now. Yeah, they're gonna be drinking from the fucking poor water fountain again. Hot take, evil smart people don't exist. I don't think that's entirely true, but I do think the degree to which you're evil sort of compromises your ability to be intelligent. Again, because intelligence is like a social thing. It exists in relation to other people and to society, and how you're capable of engaging with that. And if you're evil, you have to have some, like, pretty antisocial tendencies, Like, one such person that I would describe as being evil but also intelligent, Steve Bannon. But because he's evil, he's also, like, that also, like, inhibits his ability to be rational and intelligent, right? Because he does just want bad things, because he's also, like, really fucking racist. So I do think at a certain point you run into some contradictions, but with people like Steve Bannon, or more realistically, a bunch of, like, thumb-twiddling neoliberals that, like, at all costs want to preserve the current system, it's possible to have somebody who is evil but also smart. Keep going here. Trump claimed there has been a concerted and widespread effort over the past decade to rewrite American history by replacing, quote, objective facts with a, quote, distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. Every accusation is a confession. They have literally advocated for patriotic education by name. Just look up the 1776 Commission. That was their response to the 1619 Project, where they explicitly wanted certain facts of American history written out of the textbooks so that they could teach a patriotic narrative. Yeah, everything they accuse their opponents of being guilty of, they are themselves doing. Adding that it casts the, quote, founding principles of the United States in a negative light. What founding principles, I wonder? Not that it matters. They lie as easily as they breathe. There's no reason to expect, like that whole fucking thing was like had half a dozen lies in 3 sentences or something like that by the Trump administration. So, that's about what you can expect out of them. American history written out of morbid curiosity. I want to see what horrible things. I don't quite get it. I don't think. Somebody might get that star. I'm not entirely sure. Ow! Was that a thing you can do? God damn. I didn't know that. You see the clip where Canada was like, we're no longer your friends, America? I did see that. Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, basically said, like, the relationship that America and Canada had is kind of, like, over now because America fucking sabotaged that relationship. We were trading partners, we were really close allies, but no longer. And, yeah, I think, in a way, it's like you kind of could have declared that a little earlier, and it would have been just as accurate. Also, I nailed the shortcut first try. But I think it's good that, like, now you get, at the very least, a very official recognition of new circumstances where, like, yeah, it very straightforwardly, that was really risky. America and Canada are no longer allies because of the United States' own political actions, where we just decided, yeah, how, like, we have allies and a trading bloc and whatever, and there are, like, a million fucking different things that make us the top dog in the world. What if we just threw all of those in the toilet, hung out with, fascist dictatorships, and then, like, cut funding to every single good thing that we ever did? They're like the Republicans, they would just be nonstop swearing. Well, here's the thing, is that the right wing in Canada also had to be like, yeah, America, pretty cringe, we're gonna fight you now. You suck. Oh, we'll get to that. I wanted to talk about that. But first, the Smithsonian. The executive order he signed behind closed doors puts Vice President J.D. Vance, who serves on the Smithsonian Institution's Board of Regents, in charge of overseeing efforts to, quote, remove improper ideologies from all areas of the institution, including its museums, education, and research centers, and the National Zoo. So basically, Smithsonian, you have improper ideology. I'm signing an executive order to take away money from you because you have improper ideology. And to ensure your ideological compliance, I've put the fucking, like, top-ranking 4chan Nazi in America in charge of this effort. Great. What is this nurture? It marks the Republican president's latest salvo against cultural pillars of society, just such as universities and art, that he considers out of step with conservative sensibilities. Dog, just call him a fascist already. Jesus Christ, I can't deal with these news outlets. Trump recently had himself installed as the chairman of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Oh yeah, that was a thing that happened that like I heard a tiny bit about, but it was kind of drowned out by a lot of other stuff. Is they're trying to seize control, like very direct state and administrative control over institutions for arts and education, presumably because they hate both of those things and probably also know that like, yeah, art and education are anti-fascist, so we have to get rid of them. But also, mostly, I think they're just getting rid of them because they hate them. You know? Like, it's kind of... to say that, like, oh, these things are anti-fascist, so we must get rid of them, is giving a little bit too much credit to the fascists. I think it's really just, we hate those things because, like, they don't agree with our epic and base trad-pilled view of society, so we have to get rid of them so that white children can flourish or something. Like, that's the tier of thought that they're engaging in that leads them to do this heinous shit. What are they not trying to seize control of? True. Yeah, they are trying to seize control of a lot of shit, including the federal court system and the legislature. I mean, they kind of succeeded with the legislature because fucking Chuck Schumer cucked out. And then that, like, you know, they said that, like, oh yeah, judicial review just shouldn't exist. You know? The only art they like is AI art. Yeah, which isn't art. I agree with Hayao Miyazaki on this one. I feel that AI art is a fucking insult to life itself. You know? It's probably gonna pass me again? Yeah. Maybe. When Democrats are like, law will stop the Republicans, gets me laughing out loud. Yeah, it is like wild how completely anachronistic the Democrats' strategy has been for like answering any of this. You never hear about the Democrats in the news nowadays. Like, unless it's, you hear like very spuriously like such and such representative. You hear a bit about the anti-oligarchy tour from AOC and Bernie Sanders, but the party is just limp-wristed and impotent at a time like this, which is, you know, I think there's something to be said about that as an indictment of liberalism itself, you know, an ideology being like completely incapable of dealing with the threat of fascism, because fascism is an ideology defined by extremely destructive action, and liberalism is an ideology defined by inaction. At least in the modern day, it is. You know, it wasn't always like that, but now it is. To be fair, Republicans are an insult to life itself. Yeah, that's true. The only time you're going to hear Democrats is when they have a fake enemy in elections and then they lose. Yeah. Yeah, Democrats are way, like, Democrats are electoralists in the truest sense, in that they believe that elections are the only time that anything can happen. You know? Like, the only possibility for anything to change is when you go to the voting booth and vote. Like, in a way, Democrats are actually very anti-democratic in this respect, because they believe that, like, literally no action is possible outside of the short period of time where an election is taking place, where you're writing down your choice on a ballot. You know, meanwhile, Republicans, although they are, I would argue, more anti-democratic than your average liberal, are anti-democratic in a different way, where they do believe in action to alter the course of politics in a country outside of elections. That's why you saw all that insanity in 2022 and 23 at like local town hall and school board meetings with crazy right-wing parents and stooges alike, you know, genuine or not, showing up and screeching about how trans people are a threat to our children, despite there being like single-digit number of trans people in their state, probably. I'm protesting is the only way of change pilled at this point. Yeah, going and being loud and fucking annoying is a great way to affect political change. And Democrats have never, ever been able to wrap their head around that. Not in a systemic sense, because they're too civility pilled. Civility is literally how you prevent things from changing. Civility is a great vehicle for ensuring that whoever is acting more institutionally and or something like that. Not necessarily for acting more institutionally. Whoever is not acting at a grassroots kind of level gets their way. Basically, when you don't want shit to change, engage in civility politics. Encourage everyone to just be calm and civil so that things will stay exactly as they are. When you want things to change, be loud and fucking annoying, which means you should always be loud and annoying in politics. There is never a moment in politics where you want shit to stay the same. Because that's kind of how politics works. Ow. I don't even see what I got hit by there. One episode I hate, it was like, you can't protest, that will destroy property and prevent progress. Yeah, all of that shit is a like absolute psyop. And the Democrats were complicit in that. This is why, like, I have no patience whatsoever for people that, like, whinge from the sidelines about how property destruction is bad. Like, motherfucker, property destruction is something that has always happened throughout time, especially in moments of instability and turmoil. Like, moralizing about how those protesters really shouldn't have done that just undermines what would otherwise be a valid point. Not the property destruction, because that happens all the fucking time. The whinging about it is what undermines the point. So whenever people say, like, oh, protesters, like, getting a little bit violent or something, or throwing a brick through a window undermines their point. No, it doesn't. You undermine their point by thinking that, like, throwing a brick through the window invalidates a broader critique that, like, minorities don't have rights. Like, you realize how weak these people sound when they say shit like that, because they're too much of cowards to admit that they're just racist and don't want shit to change. Like, you have to be pretty fucking spineless to be like, in either circumstance, genuine or not, well, I was gonna support minorities having rights, but then one guy at a protest had to go and ruin it by throwing a brick at a car, and now I think that minorities shouldn't have rights because, you know, they can't be nice about it. Dr. King was fucking cooking when he was talking about the white moderate. Even the show I was watching was proven wrong unintentionally. Yeah. That tends to happen in media that does that. Because liberals also being, you know, in another way, in addition to them being, like, massive pussies in that sense, they also can't commit to the bit fully like conservatives can, where they just lie. They just lie even harder. So eventually they have to be like, well, okay, I mean, I guess. But anyways, welcome to the fucking Fourth Reich, I guess. You know, minorities are being targeted. Democrats gave up what little power they have. There's, like, a fucking handful of politicians that are willing to do anything. And the administration's just like, yeah, fucking... immigrants shouldn't have rights, shouldn't have constitutional protections. And also, we should have direct, like, state control over these, like, education institutions because they have improper ideology. We've got our best 4chan Nazis on the case. If you're a minority already, stay off the streets. Yeah, this is not a good time to be a minority in America. Not that there ever really has been one, but especially now with ICE just, like, black bagging people. What the fuck happened to my chat? What? Chat isn't showing up on the stream for some reason. Hello? Properties. Uh-oh. That's an issue. I'll try to fix that after this race. I just noticed that. Sorry to anybody watching. I realize the chat hasn't been visible this whole time in the bottom bottom left. of the screen, which is usually where I want it to be. I'll leave the room after this race and try to figure that out. Oh no! I was literally about to say I'm probably gonna throw this bomb forward, but then somebody behind me got hit. Spit Mirror is the Pokemon universe perfectly set up to be an alternate universe for stories. It is well set up for that. For sure. Oh, shit. Bro, they both got owned by that fake item box? That's crazy. Okay, red shells don't fucking work on this track. I'm gonna use this here. You can have first place. God damn it. Literally gonna say, like, you can have first place. I just don't want to, talk shit and then subsequently get hit. Okay, what is happening here? Properties. Me, oh, I already read that. What's going on? Good game. I think Pokemon have nightmares about being trapped in a Pokeball. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things I feel like you're not intended to think about too hard, but like, it's a, I always imagined that it was like a nice, one-bedroom apartment inside, you know? Even though in some of the manga, you can see that it's just like a place where you kind of sit. It's just like they're sitting inside the ball. It's like they have a little hamster ball or something. But yeah. Okay. I think I need to... I'll copy this. It doesn't matter how nice your room is if you're kidnapped, you're kidnapped. Yeah, that part of it is fucked up. What's going on here? Let me open a new text file and paste some stuff. I'm gonna try to, like, delete the chat and then reopen it. Like, remake it, basically. Here, let's remove that. And then sources, add, browser. Chat. Nope, that's not it. It's this. So this would be above that. A ninja weapon? That is the OBS logo. Oh, the message showed up. Nice. Let's put this... Please select the right thing. Thank you. Very nice. Properties. Nope. Didn't mean to do that. Did mean to do this. Huh. Oh, that's the problem. Okay. I don't know why OBS does this. But every now and again, there's this problem where... Here, hold on. Let me go to filters. Every now and again, there's this problem where... it's like... Shit, let me check out the chat here. For whatever reason, right? Is your opinion on the Immortal and Invincible throughout the entire show? I haven't finished season 3 yet, so I'm gonna hold off on that before I until I finish. You go back here, and what? What? Hold on a second. That's something. Here, let's copy this. Okay. Sorry, I'm going back and forth a lot. Remove. And then paste. Yes, I think. And then if I do this... Damn it, it hid the fucking thing. Oh my god. I am getting a little bit pissed. Oh shit. What? What happened? No. What happened? God damn it. Okay, chat should be back. While talking about Republicans conquering everything. Yeah, here, you know what? I'm gonna actually just hide the timer. Average computer experience. Okay, it seems to be working now. I don't know what I did differently or why that worked, but it worked. Okay, chat is back. We're good. We're cruising. No more timer. I'm just gonna have to rely on the little timer at the bottom, the tiny little timer at the bottom of OBS. In fact, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, great. We're back. Yeah, I was talking about Republicans conquering everything. Sounds like me whenever I solve any problem on my computer. You'd be surprised how many, like, career computer scientists and programming engineers have that exact experience, where they're trying to fix something. They have no idea what's going wrong, and then they fix it without realizing, without, like, ever learning what happened differently. You know, it's like fucking... I fucking wrote like a billion lines of code, right? And then it said error on line 50. I went on line 50 and fixed it. Then it gave me 2 more errors on 2 different lines. Then I go to those lines, fix it, produces a shit ton more errors. I chase my tail around until eventually I get fed up and like reload a copy of it that had the original error. And then for some reason that fucking works with no problem. And I have no idea what was wrong or what got fixed. Like, that happens a surprisingly frequent amount in the programming world. Yeah. But speaking of Republicans and conquering and conquest and fascism, Greenland. So initially, at the outset of this administration, yeah, make a nightmare trying to Google your problem. Yeah. At the outset of the administration, and in fact, a little bit leading up to the inauguration, one of the things that Trump and his folks were talking about was the possibility of annexing Greenland into the United States. Why? They never really explain why, I think, actually. They alluded to, I think the real reason is something to do with trade routes, because of, like, the melting ice caps are going to make the Arctic Ocean basically more open for maritime trade. And being the primitive-brained, like, fucking 19th century imperialist dipshits that they are, they think, oh, we must have a land holding in the Arctic Ocean in order to capitalize on that. So that's what they want with Greenland. It's the future of climate change. They don't want to say that. Or the future of global warming. They don't want to say that. Yeah, because they've sold the line to their base that climate change is a hoax and that global warming is a hoax, when in reality, they do know that it's real. They just don't care that billions are going to die, and they want to be well poised to capitalize on the disasters that will ensue during it. You know? And this is one way that they intend to do that, by annexing Greenland by force. This was, you know, and I learned apparently from, I think, Kyle Kalinske. Shout out to Secular Talk. Man knows way more about like policy and like he's much more knowledgeable than I am. It's apparently part of this older fascist project called the Technate of America. In the 1930s, the fascists were cooking something because it was this hot new fad, basically, ideological fad. They were cooking some shit. And one of the ideas that 20th century fascists cooked up in America, this race looks like an America. This guy does not have good internet. I'm going to spectate somebody else. Here, let's spectate Jonas. One of the ideas that they cooked up was that, oh, America should be a technate. It should be a technocratic state, authoritarian state ruled by technocrats. Basically, they viewed the capitalists as hyper-competent business bureaucrat, technocrat hybrids. And basically, wouldn't it be cool if, and super efficient and future-y, if America stretched from Greenland to the Panama Canal and was controlled by unelected technocrats who were just capable of making everything run smoothly, I guess. And this is pulled from that playbook because billionaires today hold a similarly inflated opinion of themselves as millionaires back in the day. Back when, you know, your millions then would translate to billions now. Is it me, or do fascists try to keep reselling me the same thing over and over? It is not just you. That is one of the features of fascism. It only has it only has a couple key points to offer. Consolidation of power in a strongman, or handful of strongmen. The disenfranchisement and enslavement of the working classes. And the mass killing of lots of minorities. That's the best they can offer, and they can only rebrand that so many ways. Oh, also the subjugation of women to the household and complete paternalistic sexual dominance, etc., etc. The psychosexual insecurity of fascists coming into play there, as it does basically everywhere. You know, but they have to like keep inventing new ways to sell that because they're dumb and irrational and like. Yeah, I was just going to point out that that is another similarity that they bear to the liberals. Anybody who's heard about like the abundance agenda, the abundance liberalism, it's just another psyop by liberals to try to resell neoliberalism to people. You know, like, oh, liberalism is failing. It can't offer people a good quality of life. Well, actually, what we have here, it's not liberalism. It's a new form of liberalism. It's neoliberalism. It's not neoliberalism. Now that people don't like that, it's the new left. It's the opportunity economy, and now it's the abundance agenda or whatever the fuck, right? They keep trying to call the exact same thing different names and insist that somehow. Don't worry, guys. We're doing the exact same thing that got us into this mess, but somehow it's going to be, like, better this time because we've rebranded it and called it something different, and the capital class is actually enthusiastic about it this time. You know, that's one thing that both fascism and liberalism share. Their inability to change in a substantial way to meet new challenges is rooted in their dependence on the support of the capital class. You know, the capital class obviously funding fascist movements around the world. And then also, apparently, the Koch Foundation and, like, libertarian tech bros were some of the prime financiers behind the, like, the handful of, like, authors and academics that sort of touted the abundance agenda, you know? Makes me feel like the planet would rather commit suicide than have socialism. Not the planet, the capital class. Plenty of people on planet Earth are fucking ready for socialism. They're ready for, like, democracy and freedom and shit, right? Like, you might not necessarily call it socialism because for a lot of people that's a scary word, but, you know, the majority of people will see shit like this and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Stop trying to sell me this shit. You know, you're a shit-ass salesman, and we want something better. We want to be able to get our welfare benefits. We want our kids to go to school and get an education. We want things to be good, basically. You know? And that's, you know, that's part of why the top, like the top echelon of society has to astroturf movements like this so hard. You know, the capital class has to put all their, like, so much of their political capital and like finance capital, their material capital, into supporting fascism, into supporting neoliberalism, to shutting out socialism, and to creating this massive media infrastructure that is dedicated to shutting out the left, perpetuating the narrative that the only two possibilities are neoliberalism and fascism, because that narrative is extremely fragile and requires a massive, massive amount of effort just to keep stable. You know? You seen the God of War games? They made Odin like a car salesman? Damn. Fucking did him dirty. No, I've not seen much of the God of War games. I know that they're good games, so I've heard. Never played them, haven't really seen, haven't seen like Let's Plays or anything though. So yeah, because of that, to bring it all the way back, what I was talking about, because of that, like, inability to change, inability to meet new societal challenges because they're dying or dead ideologies, right? They have to keep playing the hits. Neoliberalism has to keep playing the hits. Fascism has to keep playing the hits. So you get shit like this. You get shit like the administration saying, oh, I know what's going to fix the cost of living crisis. Invading and annexing Greenland. How? Don't worry about it. The spice must flow. Never mind the fact that nobody can fucking afford the spice that is currently flowing. And the fact that they also decided that, no, the spice must not flow, actually, because we're doing all these fucking tariffs. Get rid of that. At this point, they're just like, I wish I could just inject you with the propaganda. Yeah, that's kind of the intent of, like, that's kind of the drive behind short form media. It is extremely quick and easy to deliver propaganda through that format, or to deliver, you know, media through that format. Although, you know, I repeat myself, all media is some form of propaganda, one way or the other. People just don't like the word propaganda because it implies that there's, like, some sort of dishonesty in them pushing the narrative. But no, like, yeah. Anyways. Three mushrooms, that's a good item here. And I knew that was gonna happen. I'm dead. I'm gonna get fucked this race. I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. I kind of realized as that was happening, the middle of the pack is probably the worst spot to be on lap 3 on a track like this. And I got punished for it, predictably. Anyways, that's enough of the bad stuff. Now let's get to the butt cheek clenching stuff, the stuff that could be good or it could be bad. This actually relates to some stuff I've been doing in the real world. I was part of the stuff I did over the weekend was phone banking. I phone banked for Judge Susan Crawford and for some other people and things that were happening in the state of Wisconsin. That's going to be on the ballot tomorrow. Tomorrow there's going to be a election in Wisconsin, statewide election for the Supreme Court, for the state superintendent of schools, and for a constitutional amendment. Very high stakes election, you know, state constitutional amendment, not, you know, federal constitution. Where, like, Elon Musk has been fucking pumping money nonstop into this race because they want to control the Wisconsin Supreme Court. If they can lock down a relatively progressive state like Wisconsin, you know, for the far right for decades, then like things look pretty jover for the next 20 years or more. You know, but there's a very real chance, and in fact a decent likelihood, I don't want to overstate the case too much, that Judge Susan Crawford wins this election despite all of the literally like flagrantly double, triple illegal interference that Elon Musk is running, right? I think the polling data that I saw a little while ago had her up by a margin of 50 points to 42 points. You know, like, people are not really willing to be like, oh yeah, let me vote for this fucking judge who was, like, bought and paid for by an extreme right-wing government and billionaire, and also fucking hates the Constitution and never met a never met a rape charge that they were willing to prosecute, apparently. One thing I learned when I was phone banking, you know, you learn about the script for like phone banking to say like, oh yeah, this is what this person supports, this is what this person supports. Apparently Brad Schimmel particularly has a really bad record on sexual assault cases, in that whenever sexual assault cases happen, he just kind of goes like, meh. You know, there's like thousands of sexual assault kits that were like completely unused, like for relevant cases and whatever. What happened to Luigi? I don't know. Wait, was there a Luigi in this room? I don't know. Breeze is here? Ooh. Oh no! Oh, the Luigi, the billionaire assassin. Yeah. Luigi Mangione. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. But look, I'm still on the topic at hand, that there's this election coming up that I had been phone banking for. That was a pretty high stakes election, and that there's a decent chance that the good guys, TM, or at least the not bad guys, win this election. Bet they deported him and made him a slave. If they did, we actually might not know about it, so who knows. Definitely watch that, you know. And one of the ways that Elon has been trying to interfere with this election is that the election where Elon Musk is paying people again. Yes, it is, in fact. This is the election where Elon Musk ran like an actually double illegal lottery scam. And I mean double illegal in that it is two different kinds of, like, it's illegal and then illegal again in the way that they did it. The New Republic. Thank you. Finally, some good fucking framing. Elon Musk's genius lawyer admits his $1 million lottery is a total scam. Elon Musk has admitted that his $1 million daily giveaway isn't really a lottery at all. In Pennsylvania court on Monday, the lawyers for Musk and his America Super PAC told Common Pleas Court Judge Angelo Foglietta that the prizes were not part of a giveaway or lottery, as, quote, there is no prize to be won and winners, quote, are not chosen at random. Doublespeak in the same fucking sentence. There's no prizes, but also the prizes are not going to random people. And people say this guy is the smartest man in the world. It's because they just want, like, to be in that position of power and to get their meat ridden on by morons as dumb as they are 24/7. They like the fact that he's a big man with lots of control and can make people do, like, whatever he wants. But he's, like, He's really fucking pathetic. So yeah, he was running an election lottery, quote-unquote lottery, in the state of Wisconsin, where Elon Musk said, like, I will give a $1 million check to 2 people. Each one, like, gets $1 million if they vote for the right-wing candidate. And he tried to walk that back. Like, basically, oh yeah, if you vote for Brad Schimmel, or if you voted for Trump or something like that, if you're registered to vote, and you vote for our guy, I will give you $1 million. And like, this will be for 2 people, and they're going to be picked at random. Turns out, no, he fucking wasn't, and no, they fucking weren't. You know? Like, the lottery was not a lottery because the winners were predetermined, but it was still, like, advertised as a lottery. That's already fraud, you know? But then also, it is also a different kind of fraud. It is election fraud, because he has committed a crime of saying, hey, if you vote the way I want you to vote, I will give you money. That's illegal. There's not much that's illegal in the United States with regards to, like, election interference and shit, but that is illegal. Oh no! Target shocked in fucking 7th place. Ow. It's not illegal if you own all the power? Yeah, if, you know, if you're rich enough that the law already is built to defer to you, then, you know, nothing's illegal, actually. He's not going to face any consequences for this, not meaningly, except he might still lose. Like, the election might still not go his way. It would actually be huge. This is why this election is so important, in part, because Elon Musk could be scamming the shit out of the whole state, pumping money in, committing regular fraud and election fraud at the same time, and still lose the election. Imagine that. That would actually be a really good thing. That would be a great sign that, like, you could have all the money and power and whatever in the world, but the fascists are going to be running out of steam all the same. You know? Think about the implications of what the public thinks of you if, even with all the money and power that any one person could theoretically have at any point in history, you can't buy a state Supreme Court election. It would, I think, mean, if Judge Crawford wins this election, you know, if the not fascist judge wins the election over the fascist judge that's like, yeah, I'm just here to be a rubber stamp for Trump, then I think it means that, like, the fascists legitimately don't have the juice to prevent, like, to keep the public content enough to prevent a revolution, you know? Well, this one person saying violence is not the answer. They look sad and depressed, realizing it might happen. And in fact, I also wanted to look at some of the extremely funny and pathetic details of this, like, lottery that wasn't actually a lottery, to see who exactly they picked for this like giveaway of 2 $1 million checks, because it's exactly who you would think Elon Musk would volunteer, like, to give $1 million to. I saw some posts on Blue Sky about it, and then took the time to verify through other articles, and like I think one of them took me to a LinkedIn profile, and then one of the guys that got the check was dumb enough to still have his shit public on social media, I guess. The 2 winners, they're Nazis? Yes, in fact. You know, spoiler alert if you're unfamiliar with politics. Yes, the 2 people that Elon Musk handpicked to get $1 million check to try to incentivize people to vote Republican in this election were in fact Nazis. One of them was the chairman, a guy by the name of Mike Jacobs, the chairman of the Wisconsin College not Democrats. God, could you imagine? The chairman of the Wisconsin College Republicans, and the other person was Ekaterina Deeser or something like that. I'll have to double check the names, but she is a far right TikToker. How to steal first place. Literally from last to first. Shock into golden, win the race. Nice. Let's take a look at that. Let's see. Where is the where's the post here? Give me that link, and I'll pull it up. If I was in first place that race, I would have been really mad. Hey, that's Mario Kart, man. Yeah, Nick Jacobs, chairman of Wisconsin College Republicans. And the other person is, yeah, I got it right, Ekaterina Diesler, who is a TikTok influencer who has since actually, I tried to look for her on TikTok and I figured out why I couldn't find her. She actually privated, she had the good sense to private her profile. So if you were to go try to find her on TikTok, you wouldn't be able to. So, you know, Donald Trump has his best Nazis on the case. Elon Musk has his best Nazis on the case to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. And it seems like everywhere you turn, you run into examples of fascists being, like, incapable of any degree of competence. I genuinely think this might, like, shoot them in the foot as far as their ability to win this election. The graft and the corruption is so blatant and so open and so, like, openly contemptuous of a relatively progressive voting public that, like, it inhibits their ability to actually win the propaganda war. It, kind of like how Israel lost the propaganda war all on its own, even with the backing of every major news outlet in the United States, and to a lesser degree, most major news outlets in the West. They were so unhinged, so, like, consumed with frothing at the mouth hatred for Palestinians and, like, wanted to kill every man, woman, and child in Gaza, that they fucking, like, they just lost the propaganda war. Everyone's like, oh, you're actually fucking insane and just want to kill everybody. And I think that's, like, a component, that's going to be a component here as well. Like, they're not going to be able to sell this to people because they can't. They're too dumb. They're not rational enough to understand, like, how to, like, make this look good, you know? So even if there's a scenario where the fascists do hold control over, like, the US for a decent amount of time, I don't think there's any version of the future from right now. I don't think there's any version of the future where fascists maintain a relatively stable control that involves, like, the passive consent or permissive, like, permission or, like, permissiveness of the public. Like, people are fucking pissed, and that's only going to get worse as the graft and the corruption become more and more flagrant, to the extent that you're just saying, I'll give you $1 million if you vote for us in this election, you know? And especially when you start doing shit like targeting the Smithsonian, the fucking museums in the United States, for having improper ideology. Like, when you just say it straight up, that doesn't really sit well with people. Even a lot of conservatives, though they may be perfectly fine with it, they're probably going to be relatively sheepish about defending it vocally to people that they know would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, if they open their mouth to say that. Got a giant lead? Yeah. That's a consequence of that star. I think all of that was the shock dodge. So there's a lot riding on this election. And I think that there's a, like, I'm cautiously optimistic about it, right? like I said, if the fascists win this upcoming election that happens tomorrow, it's looking pretty Jover. Just if you extrapolate that to be like, oh, you actually can pacify the public in this way. But I don't think you can. And I think that we're about to find that out. And that means that, like, for however long the fascists are in charge, they're going to have to deal with people being so mad at them that they will organize mass protests at the risk of being arrested. Even if they win the election, will still backstab themselves. We'll see. We will see. The one thing I can say is that them winning the election would be really bad, because it would mean uncontested far-right control over a state that's otherwise relatively progressive, with the exception of its, like, governing institutions. Wisconsin is gerrymandered to shit. It's like this, the state's government is not very democratic in its makeup, right? Yeah, that is true though. Like, part of what is doing the fascists in is that they know just how unpopular their project is. They have to do all this really, really fucking fast, because they know that if they went any slower, the backlash would be too much for them to actually do what they wanted to do. You know? And so I guess either way, you know, we win because it indicates that fascists already don't have the juice, or we win because we're all accelerationism pilled, and the faster fascists make things worse, the less they will be able to hold power in the long run. So, you know, really, it's a no-lose scenario for us. I mean, like, people's lives are going to get worse, but I feel like that was kind of a given in a scenario like this either way. And so now we're hoping for, like, something that will eventually lead to, like, the situation being resolved. Acceleration is the only way the average person learns. It really seems like that lately, yeah. And, you know, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. So, like, fucking bring it on, right? Ooh, that's good. What's up, Chespin? Cool. They can't claim it's my fault because I voted for blue. True. Yeah, anybody who voted against the really horrid shit happening is, you know, you're mostly in the clear. It's like, I can't believe Kamala Harris would do this. It's like, well, guess who didn't fucking win the election? You know? Or like, they'll probably say, why didn't you warn us this would happen? You didn't do anything. They're already saying that, and people are already taking immense schadenfreude from Trump supporters and part of the, like, the MAGA base being like, why didn't you guys say something? Because we spent fucking almost a decade saying that exact shit, and they were like, you're just a hater, and let's also make our entire political identity that we want to trigger the libs. Insincere fascism, baby. We will collapse society in a fucking heartbeat if it triggers the libs. And then we'll complain about life getting worse. Cracked room? Yeah. Welcome back, by the way. So that's the Wisconsin Supreme Court election that I actually did some phone banking for. I volunteered to make phone calls to encourage people to vote in that. Yeah, I remember that reference in season 2. Part of the... It's so funny. This is... it's like eco-fascism. Part of the justification that... what was it? Anissa invokes for the Viltrum Empire annexing Earth is that humans are such bad stewards of Earth that the climate is being, like... like, the climate on Earth is being, like, torn to fucking smithers. Like the climatic conditions on Earth are rapidly worsening. She's like, look at how badly you're treating your planet. You should be annexed by the Viltrum Empire so we can give you technology and steward your planet better than you're capable of, which is classic eco-fascist argumentation. Put faith in us, the strong man. We will fix the problems of Earth. The Earth is dying. We must consolidate power in order to fix it. And by fix it, I mean, like, kill minorities who oppose us, first and foremost. And then, like, maybe we can talk about climate, by which I mean we'll do fascist things that include, like, deregulation of industry, but we'll frame it as though we, like, care about the climate or something. Like I said, eco-fascism is just using environmentalism as an excuse to kill a lot of people. And I think the Invincible show actually did a good job of, like, short form highlighting that, right? Because you've already seen at that point that, like, oh yeah, Viltrumeisters fucking kill without hesitation because they view all these people to be lesser. Like, the people on Earth would be political minorities in the Viltrum Empire, and all of the shit that they're saying about, like, Earth being in danger or whatever is just an excuse for them to annex it and then do the shit where they, like, kill lots and lots of humans, you know? Oh, wow. That didn't appear on my screen until I was, like, right in front of it. Chespin's very good. Yeah, I recognize him. Nice. See, this is proof that Flavin or Lanchi dropped 101 casually? What? Oh, like he got 101 points in a GP. Damn. Or in a yeah, like in a 3 GP, 2 or 3 GP thing. Yeah, total 3 GPs. Yeah, that's a really big score in that format. Yeah. Although, part of the reason that I play Worldwides and not Lounge is that if you pay attention to the language of the race, GP, Grand Prix, it's a collection of 4 races, right? The competitive format for Mario Kart Wii is you play 3 Grand Prix of 4 races. So you play 4, and then, like, scores tally up, then you play 4, scores tally up, then you play 4, scores tally up, so it's 12 in total. Well, I was gonna say, the reason I play Worldwides and not, you know, competitive Mario Kart, number one is because I already don't like Sweat Lords, and I don't like being super sweaty playing this game. But also the language of the race is quite a bit different. And I mean language like body language. Easier to fill rooms on Worldwides. Yeah, I think in a way it makes for better content for streaming. It's also, like, a lot easier on me. Easier for me to talk and drive at the same time. But, you know, the body language of everybody in the race, in the Worldwide, is, I think, a little bit more difficult to manage. Like, I genuinely think that Worldwides are more difficult to drive in than Lounge. Because in Lounge, you usually, like, there's a lot more rational, sort of, like, optimized behavior. Worldwides are more unpredictable, and additionally in Lounge sometimes, if you're doing a, like, team Lounge, you have to consider your teammate. There's a degree of communication that has to occur. When in Worldwides, it is every man for themselves, which means I have no fucking idea what any of these people are going to do at any moment, right? It's easier for me to use my split second. It's easier to rely mostly on split-second reactions. And I realize this isn't making a ton of sense because I've used, like, easier and more difficult and kind of contradictory contexts. It's just a very different skill set. Are there teams in Mario Kart? You, like, put a tag before your name. So it's like you and your friend are one team, and then the other two guys are another team. Or it's like 6 people versus 6 people. And like maybe one person has like one team, they have a star in front of their name, and then the other team they have like a triangle in front of their name, and that's how you tell the difference between who's on what team. And then the objective is to like get the best score or whatever. I think it's a different skill set, and it's very complementary to the kind of content that I do. That in a regular free-for-all worldwide, I'm mostly relying on split-second reactions, instinct, and like basically like fundamentals in a worldwide. And it's also quite a bit lower stakes in a social sense, so that I can also talk about like current events and shit, because that like, you know, I don't really need the huge split-second decision-making part of my brain for talking about all the current events shit. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making a ton of sense, but there's a reasoning behind it. Mario Kart would be one of the deadliest races ever. Yeah, it would be. I say all this and I'm getting 7th, right? But like, yeah. There's also, you know what? There's also more uptime in worldwides. Because in a lounge you have to. It's like a fun room. You know, it's a room that you have to join. There's more downtime in a lounge setting than in a worldwide setting. Anyways, who's ready for some fun shit? Non-Americans are eating good for this story that I'm about to talk about. Shoutouts to the Canadians, the Europeans in the audience, the South Americans as well. The anybody from any of those countries outside of the United States, because you're more likely to have known about this than any Americans. Please, if the link would load, please. Yes. Okay. From Le Monde, which is a French newspaper that also publishes in English, so I don't have to subject anybody to my French as a second language skills on stream. Marine Le Pen barred from running for public office after conviction in fake jobs trial. That's right, the leader of the far-right party in France was found guilty after of embezzlement and corruption. And can no longer hold or seek public office. Imagine that. Talking about Jubilee again. I can talk about Jubilee in a second, but like, yeah, I saw what people were posting in the Discord about it. That might be a fun, like a more fun topic. But right now, I want to talk about Marine Le Pen because that is really fun. Yeah, apparently, let's see. Her far-right party used European Parliament funds for European Parliament assistants to pay their own party members, which there is a substantial difference between those. It's like, they're members of different organizations. It's like you were supposed to pay like this non-profit who's staffing the European Parliament, or you're supposed to pay the European Parliament as an entity, but then we're like, nah, we'll just keep this money and pay ourselves with it, actually. And that sounds like fucking small peanuts in the United States, but that is a crime. Embezzling money is a crime. And it brings me immense joy to see that Marine Le Pen has been punished for this crime to the degree of she's no longer allowed to hold or campaign for public office. Very nice indeed. Law and order, as they say, I guess. Oh, what's up, Grantham? Oh, that was a mistake. What I thought was gonna happen was I would hit the mushroom. Bad person suffering consequences. That had to be fiction. We'll see. We'll see what the road brings. But right now, it seems like yeah, you know, this might actually be real life. A Paris court on Monday. Today. Holy shit, March 31st. Sentenced far-right leader Marine Le Pen to a 5-year ban on running for public office. Ah, only 5 years? Wah. Fuck. Oh well. I guess there's the caveat. With immediate effect, throwing into doubt her bid to stand for president in 2027. Yeah, temporary ban. She was kicked. She got kicked from the fucking public office Discord. She'll be allowed back eventually. She was also given a 4-year prison term, but will not go to jail. Fuck! Come on, dude. Let me have this. With 2 years of the term suspended, the other 2 to be served outside jail with an electronic bracelet, the court ruled. Le Pen's lawyer said 2 hours after the decision, she would appeal. Okay. Including Le Pen, 9 current or former members of the European Parliament from the RN, which is a far-right party, were convicted. 12 assistants were also convicted of concealing a crime, with the court estimating the scheme was worth 2.9 million euros. Again, this really sounds like fucking chump change compared to the shit that goes on in the US, but like, hey, look, she's got to wear a fucking bracelet that tells the authorities whenever she like leaves her house or some shit. That is fine by me, at least for now. Oh, what? Oh, wow. I didn't know I was too close. Le Pen had left the courtroom before the judge announced how long the electoral ban would last before rulings on a potential prison sentence and fine. Oh, dude, Leo's also on Birdo. Let's go. Ampharos gang. I'm going to chain this here. That was sketchy as hell, but it worked. I'm going to use these mushrooms under the assumption that the shock is going to happen soon. Who's the average person today think about their situation? What, like, you mean just economically speaking in America? I think a lot of them probably wouldn't be able to tell you with any degree of specificity, but you would get some vibes. You know, it's like one of those things where if you ask people about whether they like their insurance, everybody says yes, like my insurance is good, until they actually have to use their insurance. What did that even bounce off of? Oh, did it bounce off the fib? It might have. Dang. Let's see. The 3-time presidential candidate was accused of having fired 4 fictitious assistants when she was a member of the European Parliament from 2004 to 17. Talk to the other person feels like... Oh, to the average person, it feels like you're talking to a dog. Yeah, well, the average person is not very intelligent. Or at least I should say not very intelligent in matters of, like, the body politic, right? Intelligence is very compartmentalized, and especially in the United States, there is not a good framework of political education. Most people do not know shit about politics. Yeah. So they're detailing the procedural elements of this this scandal. Let's see, the assistants who were paid by the European Parliament carried out tasks linked to the management of the party rather than work related to European Parliament activity, as is normally required of such positions. In addition to the suspicious suspicions of fictitious employment. The court suspected Le Pen of having been at the heart of an organized and centralized embezzlement system of money paid by the EU to her party between 2004 and 2017. Oh, shit. So, like, she was orchestrating this big embezzlement scheme where they were basically siphoning money from the European Parliament into the far-right party. Damn. Fucking organized crime shit. Again, small peanuts compared to America, but, like, I guess in Europe that is a pretty big deal, and, you know, whoopsie, busted. Honestly, I would have used this as an opportunity to potentially crack down harder on the party at large if there were suspicions of that. But, like, I don't know, I guess it depends on how much that was actually proven in court, and, the position of the far right in Europe is a bit different than the position of the far right in the United States, which is also something I wanted to talk about by virtue of this, like, court verdict even existing, is that, like, the far right in Europe has to be, like, in a comparatively way less powerful position than the far right in the United States for them to face any sort of, legal consequence for their action when they do shit like this, right? And I think that's a good sign, because it means that, like, Europe still kind of functions as a society, you know? So I think that, like, there's some cause for hope in the fact that, like, Europe has a comparatively much less powerful far right than the United States does. You know, like, the United States is already facing and will continue to face a lot of international backlash for the rampant fascism in the government, for, like, the tariffs, for the fucking cutting of U.S. aid, for all sorts of shit. And I feel like Europe is going to be a good part of that, if that makes sense. We're getting later in the stream, so I feel like I'm starting to make less sense. But, like, it genuinely makes a huge difference that the United States is the, like, one big Western player where the far right is really active and prominent, right? Where, like, in Canada, that's not the case. In Mexico, that's not the case. In most European countries, that's not the case, except maybe Britain. We'll see about that one soon, right? Where, like, the far right has only taken power and looks like they're holding on to it, at least for the moment, in the United States. And that position of the far right being in the United States, because the far right is so interconnected and funded by capital, it's actually turning the rest of the world away from the far right. Does that make sense? I feel like this is indicative of that. Yeah, the fact that America has gone so apeshit with stuff like tariffs and, like, alienating countries that were our allies and shit like that has turned countries like Canada into less of a far-right aligned political landscape, you know? Canada has become less far-right because of what the American far-right is doing. And I think the same is going to apply to other countries, particularly that America has had connections with. We even saw this in Germany with the Die Linke getting a lot more support in the election than people expected, and with the AfD, despite support from Elon Musk and other, like, oligarchs, kind of stagnating about where they were expected to be, right? Better things are possible, potentially because of how, like, quickly and like, severely the fascists are accelerating economic crises and diplomatic crises around the world. In their effort to manufacture a crisis, sometimes they succeed in creating a crisis. And when that crisis is, like, specifically coded to one country, sometimes it doesn't play well in other countries. Like, we saw that speech, or at least I did. I don't know if who else knows about it, but J.D. Vance gave that speech to a bunch of European politicians on a visit to Europe, and basically used American far-right talking points about, like, free speech that kind of only work in a two-party political landscape, and made it really evident that America was just saying, like, yeah, we support the far-right parties of Europe, and also we hate the countries that we used to be allies with, right? Like, that kind of political activity on the part of America, like giving that big of a middle finger to Canada, to Europe, to Mexico, to the Latin American countries we were allies with, makes them less likely to politically align with us, makes the public polarized against the political factions in the United States that are responsible for, you know, destroying these relationships, for destroying these trade ties and like these networks of nonprofits and like humanitarian aid, you know? The fascists in the United States being evil and having terrible consequences for other countries makes them less likely to turn to fascism in their own countries because they see what the United States is doing with it. And they're like, wow, that fucking sucks for us, you know, and for everybody else. But mostly for us, because, you know, people usually like react the most strongly to things that affect their present circumstances the most and the most directly. What do you think the Republicans' reaction will be once they get kicked out of NATO? It might be a matter of them leaving NATO before they have a chance to get kicked out. Or at the very least, I think the America being kicked out of NATO would pretty much just be a formality, you know? Genuinely, I do think that, like, something as comparatively small as this, like, we've got all this explosive shit in the United States happening. I think this is equally as important. Marine Le Pen being convicted for embezzlement, banned from running for office, and other such events like the sort of political stagnation of the AfD in Germany is just as important because it indicates the international consequences of America's actions that are really explosive here at home, but are felt elsewhere. Without nukes, who would win the entirety of NATO or America? NATO has nukes. France has nukes, and countries in NATO outside of the United States are ramping up their nuclear programs. So it's kind of a moot question because NATO does have a nuclear arsenal without the United States. It's not very big, but they have one. And in light of America's recent hostility towards the rest of NATO and Europe especially, many countries in Europe have pledged to start like leaning into nuclear proliferation more, which is not usually a good thing. But if there's a big like hostile country to you that has a lot of nukes, it's probably a good idea to have something to deter them, and sometimes that means having your own nukes, you know? Yeah, like if America did try that, you probably would serve you well to like be petty and use the fucking nukes. But regardless, like, I want people to take from this what I said earlier, which is that, like, you know, we've got all this shit. We've got the administration pursuing museums and educational institutions for having, literally, their own words, improper ideology, putting Nazis in charge of, like, these boards, and seizing control of institutions for the arts nationally, and like cracking down on the education system broadly, eliminating funding to research institutions and all sorts of shit, throwing allies to the wayside, severing decades-long trade relationships and shit like that. And in the United States, oftentimes you get mostly an American-centric perspective of it, which is only natural, you know. But it's valuable to see that in other countries, the far right is kind of losing ground, or at the very least stagnating, because the United States, being the torchbearer of the far right now, has made it clear that they just want to make everybody's life worse, especially if they're not American. You know, they'll make Americans' lives worse too, but they'll be openly contemptuous of political blocs such as Europe. And I think that goes a long way for ensuring the eventual defeat of the far right in a way that is not easy to come back from. You know? At least the whole world's not fascist. Yeah, the world isn't fascist. America is. And the fact that America is fascist is causing the rest of the world to be less fascist. You know? Despite all of the funding that is available to the fascists through their support from the oligarchs, you know, despite all of that, the institutional capture and shit like that, they cannot paper over the disastrous material consequences of their actions that hurt everybody else except for the oligarchs. And especially in countries that are not as institutionally captured by oligarchs as the United States, they're gonna not want to be fascist. And that's good. You know, Canada should keep dogging on us, both in the hockey rink and also on national TV. That would be cool, I think. Other countries' Republicans, goddamn it, Americans. True. The Virgin American Republican versus the Giga Chad Irish Republican. I might make that a segment. Future me, cut it there. Good things are in fact possible. The fascists cannot stop shooting themselves in the foot. Show America and then every other country looking disgusted. That might make a good thumbnail. Maybe. I'll have to think about what I want the, like... If I'm starting the segment with, like, talking about Marine Le Pen, I don't know what I want to make the thumbnail for that. We'll see. But you mentioned earlier that there was another fucking disastrous Jubilee panel about anti-vaxxers, and holy shit, I was so right. I was like more right than I even thought I was about those people being like influencers, not just them being media trained. Whoever said that they were like I think it was either you or like Cryoraptor that said that those people were media trained, and you guys were 100% correct and on the ball there. And I kind of nailed it also when I said that, like, these people, you could probably, if you look these people up, they would have a fucking history of this exact kind of, like, brainworm shit, and that, like, they don't actually believe this. They're influencers who are paid to espouse these beliefs. And that was confirmed when fucking, like, you know, you look at the fucking thumbnail of that Jubilee panel with the 20 anti-vaxxers versus one doctor, and like 4 of them are people that were also on the Sam Cedar debate panel trying to tell them about how trans people are degenerates and nobody should have social security actually, and women should submit to the husband. Like, these people are unhinged and they're paid to be unhinged, you know? And, you know, Jubilee is ultimately part of that, like, content fucking consent manufacturing bullshit machine. Learned it from Mr. V. Ah. Yeah, I did too. I remember the thing that made me realize that was, God, it was several years ago. There was another Jubilee panel, which was like male feminists versus conservative women. And all of the conservative women were like these tradwife Instagram and TikTok influencers or something like that were running a grift. You know? Every Jubilee panel is like that. That's how they can get them out quickly enough to be like some kind of entertaining content, you know? Only one that Jubilee existed because of Mr. V. Same here, and I'm equal parts thankful because of what it taught me, and also, like, spiteful because now I have to deal with knowing that Jubilee exists and the implications of that. So, unfortunate. Yeah, if average Republicans were up there, they would rhetorically get destroyed in a debate, And then they probably end up agreeing with Sam or that, like, if we're talking about, like, the anti-vax panel. Like, they probably end up agreeing with whoever was talking there because they'd be able to tell them, like, okay, here's what actually happens. You know, in my line of work, you do blah, blah, blah. You know, they'd be able to basically talk to them like a regular person, and the other person would not be, like, they wouldn't be activated like a fucking sleeper agent, basically, to say the line and be like, no, you're actually a liberal cuck who believes in woke DEI. Or if they said that, they wouldn't be able to keep that line for very long, you know? Like the Invincible show says, it's better to know. I think I agree. It is better to know. Notice how voters try to... Republicans try to hide their voters' opinions as hard as possible. They do, yeah. And Democrats try to ignore their voters' opinions as hard as possible. Nice. Holy shit. Okay, that shot came at a good time for me. Oh shit, that guy disconnected? Damn. Yeah, Democrats are really good at ignoring people's opinions, even when, like, thousands of people die as a result. Nice. No! Grantham took my box, and now I'm gonna get fucked and get, like, 6th. Maybe. Unless somebody dies at the line? Okay, yeah, I got 7th. I'm gaining +5 for 7th, which is pretty funny. I'll do one more race, and then that'll be it. Democrats are the best at ignoring people's opinions, even if you get... Oh, I already read that. Goddamn, I'm dumb. Sorry, it's hot today, and the heat is getting to my brain. You're gonna, Gotron, I think you haven't been here long enough to see my stream, what my stream looks like in the summer. I don't have AC in my room. And I live in a very swampy state. So... my brain's gonna get slowly more and more cooked. There might be some streams where it looks like I'm having an aneurysm. That is just because it is 80-something degrees outside, humid, and I don't have air conditioning. So, my apologies in advance. Heat resistant, put my hand in hot water, only notice that for 4 seconds. That's, doctors may not recommend this, but I think that's cool. Just remembering the one other thing I had that I want to talk about was Governor Hot Wheels down in Texas. I do appreciate people embracing the dark woke more and more, like you know, and that's pretty mild as far as that shit goes, you know. Hello, Mini Xanderhall with the long hair. Boyd, welcome back. Hello. I was just about at the end of stream. I talked about why I think the European far right is actually, like, floundering, and that's a good indication that the far right globally doesn't have that much juice left in them. That might be a good segment. But then I also was just talking about how fucking Jasmine Crockett got into some hot water with, like, disingenuous conservative schmucks over saying, like, Governor Hot Wheels, which was, like, really funny. Europe has seen Americans decided no. Yeah, and that's why I think the far right doesn't have enough, like, much juice left in them, because the far right took power in America, And then Europe was like, oh, that shit is horrible, actually. And like, the world is getting naturally polarized against the far right because the far right controls America. Second place? Pretty good. There were also, I think, some liberals who got mad at Jasmine Crockett for saying, like, Governor Hot Wheels is full of shit or something. Like, and I feel like that's one of those moments where you can tell, like, okay, anybody who said, like, oh my god, how could you insult a man in a wheelchair doesn't understand the Hot Wheels. Yeah, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is wheelchair bound because he fucking, like, I think a tree fell on him or something. His whole political career, Governor Abbott's whole political career before he was disabled and wheelchair bound, was revolved around advocating for stripping away protections for disabled Americans and, like, minorities. Legitimately, he was anti-Americans with Disabilities Act of the 1990s. Then he got disabled, used that as a platform to run for public office, got elected, and continued pushing to strip away protections for disabled people. And now there are some pearl clutchers online who are mad that somebody said, like, fucking Hot Wheels looking ass fucking motherfucker, you know? Which, again, is pretty damn mild, but basically Candace Owens. Yeah, kind of. He's like a white guy Candace Owens. DEI Candace Owens, in fact. And what the one thing I wanted to bring up about it is that, like, I do love that people are embracing the dark woke, because every time that conservatives get put on the defensive, they fucking shit themselves, dude. Conservatives cannot function when they're rhetorically put on defense. You know, we now have two very striking examples of this. For a couple brief days during the Harris-Walz campaign, when Tim Walz came up with the line of, wow, these guys are fucking weird. Then, like, there was complete, like, pants-shitting squirming from conservatives for several days while that was the main line, because everybody knew it was true. And then now, with, haha, Governor Hot Wheels, jackass-looking ass, you know, all the conservatives are like, oh my god, I can't believe they insulted this man who's in a wheelchair. How could you insult a disabled person? Pay no mind to the fact that we literally support getting rid of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you. Because they can't stand, like, yeah. They can't defend ever. And honestly, if somebody is as evil as Greg Abbott, you deserve to get made fun of for whatever the fuck about you, right? Like, I'll make fun of somebody for fucking, like, being in a wheelchair. I'll make fun of them for being a woman and being a Republican. One of my favorite pastimes, making fun of Republican women. You know, because the underlying thing I'm making fun of is that these people are fucking evil, and everybody understands that, right? It was like with the one time there was, like, a British TERF lady who looked like a potato and said that, like, Hunter Schafer specifically, like, quote tweeted Hunter Schafer and was like, you'll never be a real, like, you're a man, you're not a woman or something. And somebody was like, quote tweeted that, or it was like, showed their profile pictures, like, okay, one of these is a trans woman, guess which one? And of course, it's like, wow, there were some people like, wow, you're gonna make fun of people based on their looks and their appearance? I thought you were an ally. Snorts, pushes up glasses, shits themselves profusely. But everybody, like, whether they acknowledged it or not, everybody knew that the underlying position there was like, you fucking, Hunter Schafer is gorgeous, and it, like, obviously is valid in her identity as a woman. Meanwhile, you're over here throwing stones from a glass house because you just fucking hate her for some reason, you know? Like, the underlying thing there is you know. Well, look, I've rambled for long enough. I think you guys get it. I'm at the end of stream. Oh shit! Trans Day of Visibility is today. Pog. I'm gonna raid Hassan. He's talking about the Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, which I also talked about earlier, that I did phone banking for. Hopefully the fascists lose that one. That'd be good. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Don't raid the Russian plant. Look, all right. He's got some fucking. I'm not gonna mince words. He has some shit ass opinions on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, or like at best sometimes like pretty incomprehensible. But I do think that his opinions are his own, and I don't think he's like paid to believe any of that shit, which is more than I can say for a lot of other people, right? And also, Vosh doesn't stream on Twitch, so. And also, Cody isn't live? Yeah, if Cody was live, I'd raid him. Yeah, nobody on the left that has, like, gets paid to fucking believe what they believe, right? Like, if that was the case, then they, like, dropped off as soon as Trump won the election, you know? What I'm saying is his bad opinions are authentically bad, and I respect him for that. Alright, see you guys next time.